Hello, Facebook, and hello, YouTube viewers. We are getting online for another Monday Caregiver check-in. All right, and we are waiting for a special guest to join us. There she is. Let's have her join us. Let's add her in here. Okay, let's see if we can get in here. This might be our smoothest add-in to a live video ever. We'll see. We'll see. There's Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you down there in the Sunshine State?
I'm doing, you know what? Today is just the start of our fall weather.
Okay.
So we are, I think the last I checked, we were in the 70s, like the mid 70s this evening. And so we decided that we were going to brave it and we were going to turn off the AC and open up the windows and see what happens.
Uh-huh.
Because it really doesn't cool down at nighttime. So we just thought we'd see what would happen though. So wanted a
Well,
little fresh air in.
yes, we skipped fall and went straight to almost winter with 38 degrees at night.
I
Yeah.
heard this.
Yeah.
So Margie, I'm solo. For those that usually watch us normally, I'm solo today because Margie was at Via Colorai next to Louisville, Kentucky, and she just got back this evening, and so she was really exhausted, and so I was like, well, I'll just go on by myself. But she was up north, and she said it's freezing up there. She said it's so
Yes.
cold. She's like, it's funny how we've only been here since May in Orlando, Florida, and it's funny how we're like, now that we visit people up north, we're like, do we have the right clothes? Do we like, because we're wearing shorts and t-shirts all the time. So it's
Right,
interesting.
right.
It's interesting. Well, while we have people settling in here, let me go ahead and I will introduce everything here. So everyone, it looks like we have quite a few people that are joining us. Thank you so much. This is our my name's Darren Fink, by the way. I am the co-founder of Transfiguring Adoption. And Transfiguring Adoption, every Monday, we do a Monday caregiver check-in. This is your time as a foster parent or adoptive parent just to hang out with us for an hour on Monday. This isn't going to be life-altering, life-changing hour, but it is going to be a time for you to be able to share your suggestions, share your advice, or share your questions so that we can support each other as a community and make it through and successfully another week taking care of our kiddos. So I'm so glad that everyone's here. Hey, Kyle, glad to have you on here. As we're on here, just so you guys know, our small print is we are not legal or medical advice. We are not asking you to go against what your caseworkers or your agency is already telling you to do. We're just on here trying to help and to give you hope for another week. All that to say, please don't sue us. And so let's go ahead. And again, the ground rules for right now are we are a support group every Monday. Hey, Michelle, glad that you're here. We're a support group, so go ahead and if you have questions or suggestions or advice that you want to give the foster and adoptive community, go ahead and do those at any time, and we are going to try to get with them. I have Sarah with me, though, today from Shining Light Equestrian. Is it incorporated or is that the full
It
title?
is.
Okay.
It's incorporated now. Yes, as of
Woohoo!
April, we got incorporation in our nonprofit 501c3.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But she is a phenomenal. We have personally used her services to do equine therapy with our kiddos. And so I thought it would be fun to have her on here since she has a plethora of information with equine therapy. And she's really good with the therapy and being able to help people work through issues while working with the horses. I thought I'd have her on here and we could talk some about therapy or different ways to help kids and foster kiddos, especially with equine therapy, how it helps them, how it's beneficial, and different things like that. So we still have people that are getting signed on here. What I want you guys to tell me first off, if you're watching, please go ahead and share on Facebook. We're on Facebook and YouTube every week. If you are on Facebook, go ahead and share to your profile that you are watching because we'll have a better conversation if more people are watching. But I want to know who has ever ridden a horse, who would like to ride a horse, or who is scared to death of horses? So I would love to hear that information and know more about it. And Sarah, there's usually a little bit of a lag, so it takes people a little bit of time to answer a question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with how did you get into equine therapy, and tell us a little bit about Shining Light?
Yes. First of all, I cannot see the comments, so forgive me
Yeah,
if I don't answer the questions.
I'll reiterate
Um,
them. I'll reiterate them
okay,
as we go along.
okay, great. Second of all, I have also a disclaimer that I am not a licensed therapist, so technically it's not equine therapy unless a licensed professional is present in the session. That can be a mental health professional, a speech path, OT, or PT. So I'm a therapeutic riding instructor. And I'm also equine specialist in mental health and learning, but I do not have a license to actually do therapy. So we call it therapeutic riding instead of therapy because they're receiving therapeutic benefits. So I want to make sure I clarify that.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
my background is a degree in child and family studies with a minor in psychology. I've been doing this professionally and full time for 13 years. Um, I started out as a stay-at-home mom and volunteered at a center down the road. Fell in love with it, saw a child with autism say his first word at 5 years old, and I was hooked.
That's
So then I
awesome.
became an administrative assistant. I helped with accreditation, and then I became a certified instructor in 2011, an equine specialist, I'm sorry, in 2006, and an equine specialist in 2011. Um, I worked for STAR in the North City here in the Knoxville area for 8 years and created the Changing Strides Life Skills program for them, which is equine assisted learning. And I think it's good to give definitions of the different terminologies because sometimes people get confused with what they are.
Uh-huh.
Would now be a good time to go through that?
Yeah, let me go ahead, and I am going to share a few comments that we got real quick. So
Okay.
Michelle is saying that she has ridden a horse once. She wasn't scared, she was just nervous about it. And Janice is saying that they live on a horse farm now, and they have horses. They have had horses growing up. And last one here, I'm going to say is Christina says that she grew up taking care of horses, but not really riding much, and was left on a horse by myself. The horse tried to knock me off, and I really kind of was done after that.
Right.
So we got the
Unfor-
gamut there.
yes, unfortunately, I hear that kind of story a lot, and it's because people have not been taught or prepared, or sometimes the horse hasn't been taught or prepared to do what's expected, and so a lot of times it turns into a negative experience, and we can change that around. We take it slow, but we can help overcome that fear, and then translate overcoming that fear into other areas of their life.
Fantastic. So I want to know too, as we're going through, if anyone's ever heard of equine therapy, if this is new to everyone, that's something that I'm talking about, or a therapeutic experience with horses. I guess is how I term it. Is that how I term it with what you're
Yes,
doing?
yeah,
Therapeutic
therapeutic
riding.
riding.
Therapeutic riding. There you go. Like, has anyone ever heard of that? Has anyone experienced it? Has anyone had their kiddos had experiences with it? And what have you seen? But Sarah, what did you want to share with us?
So there's some important definitions of the terminology that's used, and I want to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of that. So the first term is equine assisted learning. Some places call it equine facilitated learning, but that's where you can have an instructor like myself, and we teach life skills with the horses. So it's all about teaching and not processing emotions or anything like that. It's giving the participants tools to put in their toolbox to help make better choices. Common populations for that are going to be at-risk youth from juvenile court, foster kiddos, and then also prison ministries, domestic violence survivors, those kinds of people that really could benefit from improving relationship skills and life skills. The next one is therapeutic riding, and that is for people with special needs. So people in wheelchairs on horses, people with behavioral diagnoses, all the gamut of disabilities. Most people can qualify or meet the requirements for therapeutic riding, but there are contraindications that have to be considered when you go somewhere. The third one is equine assisted psychotherapy, and that's where a mental health professional, licensed mental health professional, it can be a counselor, a social worker, has to be present in each session in order for that to be a psychotherapy session. Some states insurance pays for that, and some states it does not.
So, what as far as like therapeutic writing, and I know that we've had a lot of people on here that talk about children having PTSD or different things like that. Well, let me jump in here. Janice says that her 4-year-old therapist does equine therapy. He doesn't do it just yet in central Kentucky. It seems like equine therapy is everywhere. Do you find that? Is that like then, is it growing? Because I had
Yeah.
never heard of it.
Yes, it's growing exponentially. The organization I am certified with is PATH International. It's www.pathintl.org. And I wanted to get that website out there because you can locate centers all across the world. There are therapeutic riding
Wow.
centers in Mongolia, in Saudi Arabia, in Spain. Because there's so much more research showing the efficacy of it, they're definitely growing in popularity. We have there's a few organizations that do the certifications, and when people are seeking any type of center that does therapeutic services with equines, they need to make sure that they are a certified program or certified instructors, not just someone in their backyard with their home personal horse doing therapeutic riding. It's
There's a
just an
difference.
extent. Yes, I mean, for safety, for standards, we have standards we have to follow as being certified, and it's really important that people know that even people that grew up with horses, oh, I've been around horses my whole life, and oh, I can do therapy with them. No, not really. You have to be educated on the different disabilities and the contraindications of those, and there's just a lot a lot of entail. So.
Now, I noticed that when like our kids were with you and they were with the horses, you would talk a lot about the horses mirroring
Mm-hmm.
like behaviors. And that I think was profound to me, and it still sticks with me because I even use it to this day with, hey, Addison and Logan, glad that you guys are watching. That sticks with me because mirroring, I'll even use it as examples for our kids even today. Um, like, hey, remember that time with the horse? Like, I'm seeing this behavior. Like, can you tell people a little bit about mirroring?
Yeah, so a lot of times the horses can um, read what our emotions are. Even if we look like we're fine on the outside, the horses will act the way we feel on the inside. And sometimes that freaks people out a little bit because they can say, I'm fine, and the horse is really antsy, and the eyes are really big, and the horse is showing, no, you're not. And so then I can say, oh, well, the horse is responding different than they usually do. What's going on? They're feeding off of something, and then eventually they'll say, okay, this is what happened, and they'll kind of pour it all out. So horses have their own personalities just like humans do. They have good days and bad days like humans do. But typically, they can read what emotions are going on. And also, I want to back up with the
Yeah.
trauma you mentioned. I think it's really important because new research is being brought to the attention of how riding a horse, the rhythmic movement of riding a horse, helps heal trauma in the front lobe of the brain.
Really?
Dr. Yes, and Dr. Bruce Perry in Chattanooga has done lots of research to support it. And it simulates a baby swing. And that's why babies always fall asleep in the baby swing,
Mm-hmm.
because it soothes their brain and calms them, and they can fall asleep. So the same thing as going in a car, riding in a car with a baby in a car seat, putting them on a dryer. But it's that rhythmic movement on the horse that helps soothe the brain and calm them down and heal trauma in the front lobe of the brain for anyone who has suffered PTSD, even veterans, first responders, and children.
Isn't that amazing? That
Mm-hmm.
is really neat.
It
So,
is.
I know, oh, let me go ahead here. And it looks like Michelle is saying that she's heard of equine therapy and actually has talked about looking into it for her daughter that will be 7 in January.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like is 7 a good age? Like what would you
Yeah.
suggest when looking for someone when you're trying to find someone to do equine with?
Most programs and most centers start at age 4. They can also start younger than that if they do hippotherapy, which is with a PT, OT, or speech path. Sometimes they'll start at age 2. But 4 is usually the youngest age that most places accept. And then, of course, early intervention is key, just like in other types of therapies.
Huh, okay. So I always thought it was interesting when you were talking about mirroring, how like someone would come and say no, that they're fine, and then they would have like the horse will get agitated or something. I always remember, I'm going to tattle on my kids a little bit. Hopefully they forgive me. I remember them like fighting in the car on the way to Shining Light. And then when we get there, they'd pile out of the car, you know, smiles on their faces, and they would get, and I remember them trying to get on the horse, and the horse would kind of be not bucking, but you could tell the horse was a little bit agitated. The horse was getting frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
it was like it really did mirror what I was seeing in the car before getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to tell you that no, we're fine, everything's good. And then when you would call them on it, they'd say, "Okay, well, like
Right.
here's my day at school, or here's what was going on, or
Exactly. And the horses, you know, they see that, or they are in tune with that, and then they don't cooperate as well. So they're not dangerous, but they just don't do everything push button like they do some days. So it really magnifies and helps the kiddos and even adults realize and become more aware of what's going on inside their body. It also helps with mindfulness because horses live in mindfulness. That's how they survive. They don't worry about if they didn't eat yesterday or if they're going to eat tomorrow. They just wonder, am I going to eat right now?
right,
And so they demonstrate that very well and help us to learn how to practice mindfulness more as well. You're working with 1,000-pound animal or maybe 2,000-pound animal because we have two Budweiser Clydesdales now.
wow, okay,
Yes,
amazing. So
yes.
yeah,
They
you're not pushing them around at all.
well, I mean, I do, but most other people don't. I don't put up with their junk. Um, but you know, when they're not cooperating, then it's you know you have to really check yourself, and that's all you're thinking about is how to keep myself safe around this 2,000-pound animal.
Okay. And Michelle is wondering, what is the process to inquire about services?
Most programs, you don't have to have a referral from a doctor. You can just call them directly and say you want to schedule an appointment. And some places have intake assessments or orientations or those kinds of things. Um, and you want to get to know, you want to look at their website and see what services they offer, what the costs are, what the time commitment is. Sometimes they'll have contracts for a certain amount of sessions. So you want to check out that as well. And then again, who they are certified with, if it's a reputable organization. The main organizations right now are PATH, who I'm certified through, EGALA, which is all unmounted. They don't put anybody on a horse. And then some of the other ones that aren't quite as well known, but those are the two main ones.
So Christina is wondering, she said, I'm assuming it's not covered by insurance.
Some states do, some states don't. It just depends on, you know, what your state is. We're working in Tennessee. I've got a panel organized together to advocate and give a proposal to AmeriGroup. AmeriGroup, which is in Tennessee, the TennCare or the state insurance, they send referrals to us. And so, but then they don't pay for it. So if we're valuable enough to send referrals, then we should be valued enough for them to pay for us. So hopefully in Tennessee in the next year or two, we'll see more insurance companies paying for it.
And Christina is in Tennessee. So could
Okay.
you actually, Sarah, so other people will be watching this after it's live. Can you
Mm-hmm.
tell people how do they get in contact with Shining Light if they're in the Knoxville area?
Yes, it's shininglightequestrian.com. We have a Facebook page that is very active. It's more updated than even the website. We have over 1,600 likes. Our phone number is area code 865-242-9697. You just call and I talk with you over the phone, and then we make an appointment for you to come out. We have a new location. We've recently moved this last week from a farm in Hardin Valley to a farm in Blaine, Tennessee. It's 12 miles up Rutledge Pike. It's really beautiful at a phenomenal facility where she has some horses for sale for $120,000 in case anyone's in the market for them.
Well, and I just added the Facebook website. So if you click that link on the comments, you guys, you can go visit her Facebook page. And I encourage everyone to go there and like it and follow it because Sarah's amazing and she does some great stuff with kiddos. So
We put research. I put research articles on there too, so that could be helpful to some of the parents.
She knows her stuff. So even if you're not in the Tennessee area, you want to follow her page so that you can keep up with things and ask her questions and stuff like that. Definitely, for sure. So let's see, what does it look like when someone comes to you with a foster kiddo or even an adoptive kiddo? what does it look like on the first day that you're meeting with this kiddo?
Well, first of all, I was a foster parent for over 8 years, so I totally can relate to some of the challenges of that. Typically, a first lesson is orientation, where at our facility they don't ride. I do make some exceptions to that rule if the child is low functioning autism or something that just can't handle anything but getting on the horse. And so sometimes we'll make that exception and just throw them right on a horse the first day. But most people, I would say 90% of the people have orientation the first day. So we'll tour the facility, we'll meet and greet some of the horses, we'll go over safety, both emotional safety and physical safety. We will talk about some of the rules that we have to keep ourselves safe. We'll talk about some of the goals, and I always reiterate that we're not trying to make them rodeo queens or kings or Olympic dressage riders. That's not our goal. Typically, it's behavior modification. It's helping with anxiety, depression, those kind of things, and then teaching them the life skills that they can use away from the barn.
Okay. So what are some of the life skills that you're teaching kiddos as you're working through?
Um, the instructor typically just sets up the opportunity for the horses to teach the life
Mhm.
skills. So, like for example, healthy boundary space. If we don't respect the horses' healthy boundaries, then they'll let us know that they don't want us near them by either headbutting or nipping or pulling their head away. And so that gives concrete behaviors that they can see and like, oh, I'm in their space, I'm in their bubble space, I need to back off. So there's respect, patience, dedication, perseverance, integrity, excellence, awareness, mindfulness, empathy because it's a sentient being. They have emotions too. And so to promote empathy for another creature.
Mhm.
And it helps with family relationships. We offer family therapy with a licensed professional counselor. And team building. It's just the list really goes on and on and on.
Michelle is wondering if there is a cost sheet you can post. So if there's no insurance, we can know what we would be looking at.
Our fees, and they vary, of course, from center to center, but we charge $30 for a group lesson, and that's 2 to 5 people, and then $50 for a private lesson, and that's one-on-one. Most lessons are an hour. Some of the group lessons are a little bit longer, an hour and a half. And then most clients come weekly. I have a couple that come twice a week, and I have a couple people that come every other week for budget restraints.
So we got one more comment in here. Let me see if I can read this. Laura says that her daughter goes to Shining Light and can honestly say that this has been the best thing ever that they've done. She's an 8-year-old NAS baby, and we are struggling with several issues. She has made amazing progress since we started Shining Light with Sarah. I cannot say enough about the program. So, wow, good
Oh, yeah,
job.
they're great.
Fantastic.
They're great.
Fantastic. I will agree. It made a huge difference in our kids' lives. And I'd never heard, maybe I'd gotten more familiar with it since we'd become foster parents and adoptive parents, but before that, I would have never heard of using equine or using horses to teach anything about. I just would have never put those together.
Well, I would love to give a couple testimonials
Yeah.
of how it's worked whenever you want to plug that in.
Yeah, go for it.
So the first one is a girl with autism, pretty moderate autism, or on the autism spectrum. She rode with us just a couple of months and was responding pretty well. But then her mom sent me a video of her beating her up before school before getting on the bus every morning. So I stripped away her riding time and I said, well, from now on, you're going to have to earn it back. And for every morning, if your mom sends me a thumbs up, you get 5 minutes. If a thumbs down, you lose 5 minutes. And she was able to see on the mom's phone the thumbs up or thumbs down. And then when she came to the lesson, I would show her the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and we would add up the time that she had. And typically you groom and tack the first half of the lesson and then ride the second half. So 30 minutes maximum. So 5 times 5, if she got 5 thumbs up, would be her riding time. It only took her 3 weeks to earn all of her riding time back. And now
Wow.
I've had her 3.5 years, and she hasn't beat up her mom since then.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
So the motivation was that young lady just wanted to ride. And her mom would remind her, do we need to tell Miss Sarah about this? And no, don't tell Miss Sarah, don't tell Miss Sarah. And I hear that regularly from parents. And and it's kind of funny because I've never whipped or whooped a child, but
Mm-mm.
you would think that I do, just because they don't want to tell me, because they'll either have to clean a stall or they'll have to walk their horse before they get on. There's just different consequences, and so it really works for behavior modification.
And I will say too, like since we've been there too, hey Laura, glad that you could join us. And I saw Brian on here too. I don't know if he's still on here. One time when we were going to Shining Light, one thing that I appreciated too is we've gotten to different places, and I don't know how to say it. Like our kids were able to play whoever was in charge and play with them. And Sarah was very much, these are the boundaries. This is what, and it was, everything was black, like just this, if this happens, then this happens. Here's the consequence when this happens. And I remember one time you had our youngest, and he was trying to make excuses for why something was happened. And he was using like different diagnoses he's heard people say and different. And I just remember you looking at him going, "Ooh, look at him. He's got all the language, doesn't he? He just knows all the words to say." And you're like, "Nope, this is the consequence for that. And so you can make a choice right now." And he snapped to it, and he did what was expected of him. He couldn't get out of it. So I really appreciated that I guess it's life skills that our kids kind of like, they've learned how to work the system or learn what to say or do to get out of things. And you're like, no, this is what's expected. And it's very clear. Like your expectations are very clear when you're at Shining Light, I think.
Yeah, we try to keep it simple. And it's interesting, even some of the children I've worked with severe disabilities, they can learn manipulation really quickly. And so we want to make sure that we have compassion and we have understanding, but we also have clear expectations and clear consequences and clear rewards, because I try to keep a balance of that. And typically I will help give some parenting advice and some parenting ideas that I've learned along the way, that have been hopefully real helpful with people. Another thing is overcoming fear with a couple of your kiddos. They were absolutely afraid. But one testimonial that I have of fear is a young man who watched his sister do lessons for 2 years and would not even come near the horses, and because he was afraid. And then one day, just randomly, he says, "I think I want to come and brush the horse today." I said, "Okay." And so back up several years, when he was in elementary, it took 5 people to restrain him to get his shots for elementary school. So now fast forward, he is getting ready to go into 7th grade, and shots are coming up. So we make a plan, and we've taught him coping skills, and he's riding the horse by this point. He was only there about 4 months. And we said, okay, we need to get ready for this, because you have to have these, shots for 7th grade. So we had our plan in place. His grandmother was going to go back with him and hold his hand, and he was going to be brave. And he called me that afternoon, and he said, Miss Sarah, I did it." And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And he said, "I watched them give my shots. My grandma didn't even go back there. And while they were giving them to me, I told them I rode the biggest, fastest horse at Shining Light, and that I was so afraid, but it was fun, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be." And so he drew a correlation from riding horses to getting shots. I wouldn't have even made that connection, but he did.
No, isn't that amazing?
Another boy on the autism spectrum, 16 years old, he was afraid of horses. He was also, I didn't know at the beginning, but later on I learned he was afraid of elevators. And after he was riding horses, he would get in the elevator and he would say, "Oh, it moves under my feet like Samson," which was his horse's name. And his mom thanked me, because she said, "You have no idea what a life change this is for us, going to all these appointments and not having to take the stairs. He'll actually go in the elevator now after riding horses." So there's a lot of things that people don't realize they can impact.
Laura says that she likes the can't rule that you have.
Yeah, I don't know that all barns have that, but we do. So if you say the C word, C-A-N-T, you have to do 5 jumping jacks. And that is because we want to remove that word out of our vocabulary. At our facility, we want to focus on what we can do. We might have to keep trying over and over. We may have to say, "I'm struggling, I need help." We teach that asking for help is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. And that there's volunteers there that come and don't even get paid to help. And so we want to make sure they know that. There's other things you can say, like, "I'm having trouble," or "This is hard," or those kind of things. And we had one young man that was in a wheelchair and physically was not able to do jumping jacks. So we made him do leg lifts. He had to do 5 leg lifts in
Oh,
the chair.
wow.
But there needs to be some kind of consequence, and I always assign that for homework. You know, if they're in Walmart and they say the C word, they have to do it. We had a kindergartner that was at school, and her teacher was, I don't know, disciplining her on something, and the little girl said the C word and just started doing her jumping jacks while the teacher was talking to her. And the teacher's like, stand still, I'm trying to talk to you. And she asked the parent after school that day, you know, what's this about jumping jacks? And her mom laughed and said, oh, that's the barn rule. She must have said the C word.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That
Yeah.
is so cool. So I want to hear from people that are watching. What questions do you have for Sarah about riding horses, being able to help your foster adoptive kiddos? Also, what did you're hearing from Sarah talking about different ways that she's been able to help kiddos, some testimonials. Is that what you envisioned that it would be like? Did you know that like working with horses would be able to help your kiddos? I'm just curious what people's thoughts are. What are different maybe behaviors or special needs that your kiddos have that you're wondering if the horses would be able to help it, or something like this would be able to do something with? So go ahead, and also some new people have joined in. If you guys again wouldn't mind sharing on Facebook that you're watching, so that more people will join in the conversation, we'd appreciate it. But yeah, so Sarah, can you think of I guess you've probably been around horses for how many years now?
Since I was in 6th grade.
So
So
what made
a
you
long time.
start looking at going this route and helping folks, as opposed to just, hey, I'm going to be riding horses or showing horses? Or, I mean, there are a lot of avenues you could go with this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of horse jobs, you know, in the horse industry. I was a stay-at-home mom in Mississippi, and I was bored while my son was at school. So I started volunteering at the therapeutic riding center that was down the road. I had no idea what it was. I just knew it was with horses um, and with children, and I love both of them. So I went down and just kind of explored and started volunteering. And then I saw one little boy make eye contact with his mom the first time in his life, 5 years old. 5 years
Wow.
old, yes. She said that, and this was incredible. I'll never forget it because it was probably one of the first miracles I've seen. And I've seen many miracles over the 13 years. Um, but he's 5 years old. We had to play classical music while he rode, and no one talked because he was so overstimulated, sensory overload, would throw a huge, you know, fit. Um, and so this one particular day, he only came and rode 30 minutes each time. We played classical music. It was just kind of calming and helped him focus and concentrate and that kind of thing. He went and he climbed up in his mom's lap after a session, and he laid back like an infant and looked right into her eyes and gazed into her eyes for it. Everybody froze. It was like the world stopped. It was probably only for 1 or maybe 2 minutes, but it seemed like an hour. And the mom, tears started coming down her cheek, and we're just all staring there watching. And finally, he kind of breaks away and kind of jumps out of her lap or whatever. And she looks up at us and she says, "You guys don't understand. My child, as an infant, never made eye contact. This was the first time he laid in my arms and made eye contact with me as his mother." And so she was just blown away.
That's amazing. That's a game changer. That's,
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know how to say it. There's no words for that. I mean,
Mm-mm.
that's life altering.
It really is, because there was that bond and that connection that she had not had with her child for 5 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, Dusty, glad that you could join us. Um, yeah, Dusty says how cool that is. Yeah, for sure. Glad you could join us, Dusty. I was wondering if you're going to get to join us. Dusty was doing in charge of the event Margie was at, so I figured
Oh,
I figured Dusty would be dead to the world today. Um, that's amazing though, because that's see, I think one thing that I think of when I think of equine is, before my kids would have done it, I would have thought, oh, it's like it's an extra, it's like kind of frivolous, it's kind of like
just a pony
we're
ride like at the fair.
yeah, we're not getting real work done. But when I went to Shining Light, um, that just all crumbled away, and I'm like, I didn't realize everything the horses could teach the kids,
Mm-hmm.
in different ways that they're interacting. And then like you were talking about, the way things will come, just practical lessons will come up
Yes.
while they're at the barn doing different things, and it's like, okay, like, and I thought your team was so good at just stopping and saying, okay, let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can catch it in the moment. You're not talking about it what happened what previously after the fact. You're talking right in the moment of it. Also with physical disabilities, I know a lot of people with disabilities struggle with constipation.
Hmm.
And we had a child that's 5 years old with spina bifida within the last year. Her mom was at a Bible journaling class with me, and she was requesting prayer because she was having to give her daughter enemas every day and
Mm.
catheterization every day. And the little girl was getting old enough that she was embarrassed and ashamed. And why do I have to do this and my sister doesn't? And so it was becoming a really big ordeal in their household. And I said, well, I think my horses can help your daughter poop. And she said, what? And her husband her husband is a chemist at Y12, and he was very skeptical. He's like, are you kidding me? And I said, yes, I worked with a physical therapist in Mississippi for 3 years, and she put people with cerebral palsy in wheelchairs over the stomach, over the back of the horse on their stomach. So when the horse's spine moves, it massages the gut and helps push things down. Well, so lo and behold, they came, despite their skepticism, and I put the little girl on her stomach for just 8 minutes. And before they got home, 45 minutes later, her diaper was full. It was so full, she was having to walk with her legs apart. So then they came, that was the first session. They came the second session, and the diaper was full again. So now, fast forward a year later, no enemas at all,
That's awesome.
no catheterization. It also saved them money because they were going to a doctor in Cincinnati every month to help with all of the problems she was having with her bowel and her bladder. Now they go once a year to Cincinnati. And when they went the last time, the doctor said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it because it's working. So they bought a horse from me.
Really? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Are
They
you
bought a horse.
serious?
They bought a horse that was not for sale. They bought Rosie. I think you probably
Yeah,
remember who she
yeah.
is. Um, they bought Rosie, and her husband came to me, the chemist, and he said, our daughter's going to need a horse the rest of her life in order to use the restroom and be in control of her bowel and her bladder. And so we need to buy one of your horses. And so we did, and her mom turned out to be a phenomenal volunteer coordinator and instructor in training, and they bought a horse, and so it really changed the whole family's life.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
That is so neat.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are ways that I know that a lot of the kids on here, we've talked about a lot of times, probably the trust issues. Like there are a lot of trust issues with foster kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any ways that you can think of that you deal with trust issues?
Absolutely. My favorite lesson plan for trust issues is blindfold riding. So they get on the horse, and there's someone leading the horse, and there's someone sidewalking usually. And they not only have to trust their horse, trust the leader, trust the sidewalker, trust me to pick a safe horse. So it forces them to have to trust. And then we talk about, if we're trustworthy, if everyone's trustworthy, can you trust everyone? Should you trust everyone? How do you earn trust? How do you lose trust? So it really opens up that door of the whole idea of trusting.
And what were you talking about with personal boundaries and personal space? Because I know that's another one with. I mean, I know even with our kiddos, we've had to, younger kiddos, like they just want to go to anyone, like no one's a stranger, and either that or they're close talkers, and you're like, oh, whoa, back up there, kiddo. Like,
Mm-hmm. Well, horses are great teachers at that because there's only three ways they can tell you, get out of my face. And that's one, biting, which
mhm.
definitely gets people's attention quickly. Number two, headbutting, which I have seen somebody get a nosebleed from it, or pulling their head away and totally trying to avoid the person, which is also a clear indication of you are too close. I don't want to be near you. And so those three ways, those are three behaviorisms, really demonstrate to most people, you're invading my space and you need to back up. So that gives us opportunity to talk about it. Why do you think the horse reacted that way? Because they don't know you, they don't have a relationship with you, and so they don't think you should be touching their face. We pet on the neck and the shoulder to respect their personal head space, their bubble space. Um, and then I pet the horses on the face, and they see me, and the horses don't bite me, but it's because I've built a relationship with that horse. I've spent time with them. I've done training with them. I show them affection. I feed them. And so I have permission to pet their face, but most horses don't like that if they don't know you.
I know one story that I remember, and I know this kiddo won't mind me sharing it, is there was one time we went down to the barn and you had given them tasks that they needed to do with the horse. It was probably just getting them ready to ride, and they were grooming them and different things like that. And the horse was not doing what this child needed the horse like they just kept telling him, no, you need to do this, you need to go here, you need like, and the horse was just not having it. It was just being like defiant and like not listening. And I remember the kiddo getting really frustrated and just upset. And I remember going at that time, there was a time period where this kiddo was doing the same thing to us at home, where we were asking for certain things to happen to keep them safe and for certain things. And we kept saying they're bucking us, like they keep
Yeah,
going against us.
they're
And
being
so
defiant. Yeah.
it was interesting to watch. I'm not sure if that was mirroring, but it was interesting anyways to be able just to use that and say, hey, remember how you were frustrated with the horse at the barn because it
Mm-hmm.
kept being defiant? That's the way I'm feeling right now with you.
Yes,
Like,
yes. It helps them, with that role reversal of, wow, I never realized this. And I had one young man at 17 that punched a soccer referee at one of the high school soccer games, came to the alternative school and came to the life skills program. And he had to do an activity in a round pen with a little pony. He picked a pony because he thought he could bully it. Um, and of course, the pony had another idea because the smaller they are, the bigger attitude they have. But the pony was just ignoring the young man. He was supposed to just do 4 laps. The pony was ignoring him and eating grass on the outside. And the young man was trying to communicate what he wanted, what his expectations were, but the pony was ignoring him. And then finally he got the pony moving, and pony took off running around, did way more than 4 laps, over dramatic, which the young man had been. Um, and then the pony tossed his head at the boy like several times. So I just translated the behavior and I said, "Oh, he just flipped you the bird." What? What? A horse just flipped me the bird? I said, "Yes,
yep.
he sure did." And I said, "He does not want to do what you're telling him to do." So that young man did not achieve the objective for the time restraint that he had. And in his journal that day, he wrote, "From now on, I'll do things the first time my mom asks me to,"
Wow.
which is a huge, huge light bulb that we could preach till we're blue in the face. And he
Mm-hmm.
learned because he had the experiential learning process with that pony. He was a totally different young man after that. He followed directions at first request, which we hear a lot in the caretaker world is follow directions first request. And I have the 3 strikes you're out motto with my horses and with my own children, made me a better parent working with horses. The first time I'm going to ask the horse to do something. The second time I'm going to tell the horse to do something. And the third time there's going to be a consequence for the horse because they chose not to do the right thing the first and second time. And usually that means more exercise, like running laps, like a football team would do if they got in trouble. The horse just has to do more exercise. So then they're thinking, okay, I'd rather just be late. I'll do what you want. Just don't make me work harder. So it's not that we beat on the horses or we're mean to the horses. We just make their way difficult and our way easy. So then they choose our way. And that works a lot of times with children too.
Well, and that's amazing too, because I think even as adults, I think when we come to a conclusion ourselves, we stick to it more. We stick to a decision more when we're like, oh, that, like when we have those aha moments or whatever, and we're like, oh, that's. So I think it's so amazing too that the horses can take kids, and like you were saying, we can preach it till we're blue in the face, but they
Yeah.
practically are showing the kiddos
Yeah.
like, here's how it is,
And there's no denying it.
right. And then they're able to go to a journal or something and write down, okay. And they come to the conclusion themselves.
Yeah.
And it just sticks so much better.
Well, and there's different activities we can do. Obviously, doing this 13 years, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. But we had one particular family of 3 sibling set that had been coming for 2 years and had done most of what I had, but they still loved coming. And they came this one particular week where they had TCAP testing, and
Mm.
they came to the barn and they were just stressed out and they're like, oh, we don't even want to ride. Our brains are fried and we're just exhausted. And I said, okay, well, how about we just take a quilt in the pasture and we go sit in the pasture and watch the herd. And that's what they did. They just sat on a quilt in the pasture watching horses and drawing on some paper. And still talking while they were doing that. But they needed that time to kind of decompress. And they left there relaxed and calm and de-stressed.
That's amazing. Hey, we are getting down to the last few minutes or so of our time together, you guys. I'm so glad that everyone was able to come here. If you would go ahead, and if you have any more questions for Sarah, or if you have any more thoughts about equine, different therapies, or you just have some questions that you were just maybe got so interested in everything that you didn't have time to ask, now would be the time to do it, because we're going to take that time. And I am going to let everyone know real quick that we still have our award going on for the Best Adoptive Parent of 2018 is still
Yay.
happening right now. The nomination phase is over. We are right now, our membership volunteers are voting on who they believe should move on to the finalist stage. So the 1st of November, we're going to be sharing who our 3 finalists are. And those 3 finalists stories are going to be paired up with our 3 celebrities, Chris Rankin, Stan Yanvetsky. Yeah, I never say his last name right. I'm so sorry, Stan. And Anne Heffron. So they will be paired up with all of those, and those celebrities will be championing them on Facebook and other social media. So, and the public will be able to vote come the 1st of November who they think should be the best adoptive parent. So I hope everyone can keep in contact with that and check out our website, transfiguringadoption.com, because we are doing this contest to celebrate those parents that are being creative. They're working hard. They're people that are seeking out different opportunities like equine to help their kiddos. They're parents that are understanding that the adoption process isn't just all roses and rainbows. It's actually a delicate time that they're taking their kiddos. Their kiddos are suffering from loss and are having some real struggling issues. So we're really wanting to celebrate those parents that are unsung heroes, that are making a better life or at least making a healing and successful life for kiddos coming from a delicate place. So very cool. Mary says, Sarah is so good. Great program.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Honored to be able to do it. It's not work if you love what you're doing.
It is true. Well, Sarah, did you have anything else any 2 cents or anything that you wanted to throw in before we head out?
Just the website so you can locate a facility in your area. I just wanted to make sure that people got that so that they can go on. There's a little tab called Find a Center. And so whatever state you're viewing it in, I'm sure that there's a reputable therapeutic riding center near you. The website is pathinternational.org, PATHINTL.org. So people can find it in their location. There's a tremendous amount in Florida, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
BTW.
By the way, Darren.
Yeah.
We actually have a few people. I'm not sure if they're on right now, but we actually have a few people that usually watch here in Florida. So that would be good for them too. Let me see. I'm going to put that website up there real quick so that people can find that.
You can also find instructors that way as well. If you don't have a center in your location, you might have an instructor in your area that could help provide services. So, and you're always welcome to contact me, and I'm happy to help any way I can, answer questions, or if you're in the Knoxville area and you're interested, we're going to have an open house this coming Sunday at 2 o'clock at our new facility, 522 River Ranch Road in Blaine, Tennessee. And then we hope to start back up lessons this coming week. We have openings, and we're doing fundraising to buy our forever home in Powell. So we have a GoFundMe page for that.
Hey, Sarah, can you, after we're done here, can you go back on our page and can you add in the comments the information on your open house and stuff like that if people are interested?
I would love to do that. Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I'm so glad that you could do it. I kind of asked you last minute because it was just today that I was like, hey, so Margie's going to be traveling, and I've done this by myself before, and let's face it, you guys, I think everyone will comment on here and agree that it's not as much fun when it's me just by myself. So
you did great. You did great. I'm just thankful for the opportunity.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Everyone, if you guys have any questions or comments or advice, we are going to be checking this throughout the week. So If you couldn't think of your questions now, or you have something later that you just thought, hey, I didn't think of this at the time when Sarah and Darren were on, we will be checking this throughout the week. At least I will be, and then I'll get in touch with Sarah. Yeah, go check out Shining Lights Facebook page, like it, follow it, because Sarah is a great wealth of knowledge, and you want to follow and know what she's thinking and what information she deems is important. But yeah, other than that, you guys, thank you so much for watching us. We will be back here again next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another Monday Caregiver Check-In. I don't have, I believe it'll just be Margie and I again next week, as usual. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So appreciate everyone. Thank you, Sarah, again for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We hope we're helping to nurture and grow your foster or adoptive family. Goodbye,
I
everyone.
miss you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we miss you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.